Well, howdy, everybody. Welcome. Welcome to another edition of That's Railroading, where we bring the railroad to you. And we love doing it, too. And I couldn't wait to come to work this morning. I love this job. It's a good job. I love this. Love railroading. Okay. Even though we are a coal mine, I'm not a coal miner, I'm a railroader. But anyway, wanted to tell you, first off, we're going to, my good friend Rodney, used to be a train operator here, and I've been making videos here for over 4 years, and I've got a lot of videos. There's a playlist on my channel about the different stuff that the tamping. I have an old Jackson 6700 Tamper, was built in 1994, and but he says Dave, you never showed exactly what all the controls do on it. So you're right, I never have. I've showed a lot of the computer stuff and things like that, and how other things work, but I've never showed you actually how to operate a tamper, what all the controls do. So we're going to do that today. Okay, pretty cool stuff. I've been doing some maintenance here on my tamper. I got a train back here waiting to dump, and as soon as he's dumping, I'm done dumping. I got to finish my maintenance up to here, and then I'm going to follow the train out and do some tamping today. But I'll go over the controls with you. I wanted to tell you too, I got a second channel, so you want to check that out. That's called That's Dave's Other Doings. Got more cool railroad stuff on it, and a lot of other interesting stuff that I get into. There's a link in this video's description to check that out. Okay. Said I've been put a fitting on here. I had an oil leak up in here. I put a fitting on here, but to understand what happens with the controls in there, you're gonna have to understand a few things out here. This is called a workhead. Okay, that's a workhead, and in the tamping cycle, this workhead goes down, and these tamping tools go underneath. This part right here goes to the bottom of the ties, about right here, and the jack beam up here, I'll show you in a minute, lifts the rail up or moves the rail back and forth to align it. But this goes in, and they're out here when the machine's running, but it will squeeze the ballast underneath the ties. So this is a workhead. All right, and there's 4 workheads, and this is the jack beam. This is what picks the rail up. This clamp here goes underneath the railhead and picks the rail up. And there's a complicated electrical thing that I'm not going to get into that controls all that, electric over hydraulics, but I'm not going to get into that in this video. I did put a video up on the light system, how the light system works. The bottom light there on my light carriage in front is the lining light. The top light's my surfacing light. So there's a link in this video's description to go watch how the light system works. But this is the heart of the operation. Picks the rail up, moves it back and forth. Some people call it a clamp frame. The older Jacksons, they call it a jack beam. All right, and these are the cylinders, one on both sides, that picks the rail up. And there's 3 servo valves up there. You can't see a very good picture of them, but that's what controls the hydraulic fluid to pick that up or to line it. And when the electrical voltages get to 0, that cancels the jacking of the track. Okay, again, so let's go in here and take a look around, and I'll show you what everything does. Okay, see, I have various gauges here for the engine. All right, and this is my RPM gauge, my mile per hour. We typically track travel at 15 mile to 18 mile an hour. We're going down track. This is the throttle. Turn it that way, that increases engine speed. We have a parking brake and a service brake. All right, this is your horn. Have an emergency stop here, and you see We get an engine alarm if there's low oil pressure, or if it gets, the water temperature gets too hot. And lights, wipers. This is index. If I want to go into the tamping cycle, I have to put this up in index. Okay, and this turns on my 24-volt power to tamp. So I have to turn that on. All right, I have a low and a high on my transmission. Just shift it like that. It's got an air cylinder down underneath that pushes the gears in and out. And this is how you start it. On, start. Starts pretty easy. There is a master switch back there. When this tamper is out and I park it in the siding, the key always comes out, and I always lock the doors so nobody can get this machine started when it's up there at milepost 8 siding. Make sure of that. Okay, can't get in and can't start it. Down here, we're here at the harbor, so you know, that doesn't matter. I have locked the doors up in the past, but anyway, that's this is what controls the machine. It goes forward or reverse, and obviously we're not running, so nothing's going to happen. See this travel controller must be in neutral position when making radio transmissions. All right, so this is my onboard radio. When I'm track traveling, I try to avoid at all costs making a transmission over the radio. An incoming message will not affect that travel controller. An outgoing message can affect that travel controller. When I'm in the tamping cycle, when I'm clamped to the rail with the jack beam, I never make a radio transmission, okay, because that can affect the jacking of the track. A lot of old other tampers have their radio way back in the back. Now, handheld radios and cell phones will not affect this, okay? So, you know, I'll take a handheld with me if I'm track traveling. I'll use the handheld. So we do use our cell phones a good bit here for communications. So again, if I get a phone call and I'm talking on the phone, or I got to call the train or my other buddy on the regulator on a cell phone, that does not affect this at all. The only thing that affects this is the onboard radio. All right, and I don't know why, but it does. So anyway, when I go to tamp, I have to select which side of the rail I want as my grade rail or my line rail. Okay, so if we're going into a right-hand curve, then the grade rail will be the lower rail in the curve, and the line rail will be the higher rail in the curve. I got a mode selection. I can tamp in switch or tamp in production mode. I always tamp in production mode. If you're going to tamp a turnout, you want to be in switch because that holds the clamps that I showed you on that jack beam up higher and also out further. All right. When I'm lining track, I have to have this rail follower on. My masts have to be all referenced against, if we're on the right grade rail, they have to be all referenced against the left rail. Okay, I did a video on that before. That's in that video where I told you about how the light system works. This is my liner. I can automatically line the track, move it back and forth with this on. I can also line the track with this button here that pushes the jack beam this way. If I push it forward, pushes the jack beam that way, so I can line track. This is the gauge that I follow for lining track. All right, so if the gauge is over here and I'm going down track, I want to get it to the green. So if I'm lining manually, I'll push this forward. That'll line the track over here. And when the needle gets to green, I stop. Okay, the liner does it automatically through the computer system. This is for my onboard radio. This is the computer system. When I flip this up, then that turns the computer on. This is a light that tells me my jack beam is up and clamped for track travel. If I go too far when I'm indexing ahead, then this will come on. Okay? This takes my work heads up. All 4 of the work heads go up, and there are locks up in there. You probably can't see those, but this is the work head hook lock. So when I'm track traveling, I keep those 4 work heads locked, and that way they won't fall down. That would be a disaster. It actually happened here one time, a long time ago, where the hooks weren't in there. Work heads fell down, and when he went across the bridge, it tore a couple work heads out. But that was a long time ago. Okay, so this is very important. This drops my center rail follower. Okay, this one I used to have a rail follower back here. After this machine was rebuilt, they took that out. It's in the very back. So this is non-functioning currently. But that's what I used to have to drop to get this to fall on the rail way back when. These are my locks for the jack beam. So when I pick the jack beam up right here, then I'll get a light on, red light here, the jack beam's up, then I'll lock it for track travel. Okay? These turn my vibrator motors on. The vibrator motors, you see that piston down there, cylinder? There's a vibrator motor underneath that. That's what makes it vibrate. All right? And I can drop my clamps to get underneath the rail. That would be the base. These are for both sides. This is for the ball of the rail, so it clamps right underneath the rail head. And these are various circuit breakers for the machine. And they once in a while I'll have one pop out, but not very often. All right. Okay. Got a fan. I got my air conditioner work. I can. This is for my backup alarm. I can change it so it's going off when I go forward, or I've got it always on reverse. In case I back the machine up, then the backup alarm comes on automatically. Okay, this is my control board. And when I want to index the machine ahead, I push this green button down. And when I let it up, then I'm in work mode where I'm tamping track. So this will be in index. The power will be on. And when I push this down, that releases the hydrostatic braking. And when I let go of the button, then the machine will move ahead. And when I let go of the button, the hydrostatic braking comes on automatically. I don't have to use my service brake when I'm tamping. In fact, the service brake will be off when I'm tamping. Okay? Although I could use this if needed. But the hydrostatic braking does that. Stops me automatically. And I push this down if I want to go in reverse. This clamp and unclamp, that starts the clamping cycle. Push this down to get it to start clamp. And as I'm tamping, when I index this ahead, that also goes through a relay which unclamps it automatically. So I don't have to keep flipping this every time I index ahead to another tie. All right, I can shut each work head off individually, so I could run just one work head at a time, so it'll go down. These 3 here that I have off will not go down. Or I could run 2 or 3, leave one off, whatever I want. And that's handy when you're tamping a turnout, because sometimes there's not enough with that frog in there. You got to shut one work head off to get through. Okay. Now these workheads will go in and out. If you see that cylinder down there, each workhead will go in and out, and I can control that with here or here for each individual workhead. All right, in or out, and that's very handy for tamping and turnout. Again, you have to have that. This is called a switch production tamper because you can tamp switches and turnouts with this tamper. This knob here, I can add super elevation to the curve manually. All right, these are in 8ths, so I'll add the 8ths. If I do this, I can add super elevation to the curve manually. To do that, I have to know where my transition points are on the curve, and I have to count the number of ties and then add 1/8 of a super elevation, or when I'm on the exit spiral of the curve, I have to take it out. So once you get up to here, 7/8 of an inch, then you would put this back to 0 and start on your inches. So you got 1 inch. All right, and this will put up to 6 inches of super elevation in, which we don't do. I think the greatest amount of super elevation that we have at any of our curves is 3 inches. Okay, railroad thinking has changed a lot over the last 40 years. Used to be, they put more super elevation in the curves, and over the last 40 years they've been taking super elevation out of the curves, and I'll do another video on super elevation to explain all that at some point in time. All right, this is called a meter board. This is my control board. Excuse me. This mass position is for my lining actuator. It tells me where my lining mask is. Okay. This over here is for my light carriage. The light goes up and down on the light carriage. There we go again. Tells me where that light position is. The higher I raise the light, the higher I am going to raise the track up. The system on the tamper automatically cross levels the track. The computer can put in the super elevation automatically, or like I said, I can do it manually. I almost always use the computer. That way I don't have to go through all the math and figure out how many ties in the entry spiral, how many ties in the exit spiral, and divide that up to know how many ties ahead that I would have to put the super elevation in. So the computer does that automatically. It's a lot easier, goes a lot quicker. I could do it manually if I had to. All right. These are my jack beam travels. For both sides, there's a cylinder on either side of the jack beam that can move the jack beam forward or back, or I can skew it. I can have it, which I don't do, but try to keep it equal. So it's an equal lift up instead of a skewed lift, but I can adjust how that jack beam travels here. Okay, this is for tamping a turnout. This drops my clamp down automatically, and this takes my clamp in and out automatically. Okay, and this gauge here tells me where the right rail is in relation to the left rail. This gauge over here on the left tells me where the left rail is in relation to the right rail. And so I got a left, this is for my left clamp, this down and in or out. All right, the jacking speeds. Now here's a unique feature on this. One day I'm going to make a video on how to pop a joint, and I don't know that a whole lot of people know what that means, but I'll have to make another video on that. But I can turn this down to 0. So if I have this 0, this side of the track will not jack at all, and this side will. And all right, so I can turn this up. Some operators have it all the way up. I've always run both of these around 7. So if I turned both of these off, and even though I had a dip in my track, the jack beam would not jack the track. All right, how about that? So there you have it. And this is the keyboard for my computer. This is the mouse for the computer. The whole onboard computer system is in here. There's one thing I did not show you, and this is right here. I did not show you this. This is manual, so when I'm in manual mode, then this button right here takes all the workheads down if I have them all on. If they're all on, then all 4 will go down. If I only have one on, then only one workhead will go down. So that's in manual mode. Push that down, up, and that brings them back up. Push it down, the workheads go down. Okay, so I do have an automatic workhead package on this computer. And so when I index a head, that will automatically take the workheads down and automatically squeeze the workheads. So the ballast goes under the ties. And when I'm in auto, I have a choice of 1, 2, or 3 insertions. One down, squeeze, that's 1 insertion. 2 down, squeeze, that's 2 insertions. 3 down, squeeze, that's 3 insertions. All right, and the number of insertions that you put on when you're tamping track depends on the amount of lift that you have on the track. If you don't have much lift, you can put 1 on, 1 insertion. The higher the lift goes, then you go up to 2 insertions. I usually run this about up to a 2-inch lift. All right, and above a 2-inch lift, then I'll have 3 insertions. And I usually do it manually because I think you get a better squeeze of your workheads manually than you do with here. If I'm in auto workhead, then I can automatically squeeze the workheads right here. But like I said, I usually tamp in manual. How about that? All right. This has gotten into a pretty long video, but now you know how to run a 6700 tamper. This is an old tamper, like I said. A lot of the new tampers have a foot pedal you can index ahead with. They also have over here on the side of your chair joysticks, and a lot of the controls are on those boxes here. They're taking them out. Every tamper, not all the tampers are built like this. So anyway, so this is pretty good and pretty long. So thank you, thank you very much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. And now you're ready to go tamp track. Okay, you can go over there to Norfolk Southern and say, you know how to run a 6700 tamper. Okay, all right. But I mean, this would be a great training video for whoever takes my place. It's a process to learn. It's a process to learn where everything is. But okay, very good. Happy rails to you, my friend, until we meet again.